Hey guys, what is Topical? Nate here, and today I'm going to be reacting to negative reviews of A24 movies that I love. Because The Tragedy of Macbeth is coming out soon, and that's an A24 movie, but before we start, scroll down to the description box below, pop it open, you'll find links to our social media accounts, and as well as our Ko-fi and Patreon account. If you'd like to help our channel grow in a financial way, we would very much appreciate that. But the first A24 movie that I'm going to be reading a negative review for is 8th Grade. And JD from Scrubs, maybe, is a scrub because he gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, and he said, "Arg." They cast an 8th grade girl who badly needs braces, was overindulged by her father with a pimply face and significantly overweight. Why? Dad could afford braces. She absolutely had no activities except playing the cymbals in the school band, which was atrocious. They are third grade is what he meant. Bands better than that. The coolest boy in school is a skinny, diminutive kid who everyone thought was cool. In 8th grade, we had boys who were 175 pounds, ripped, and ready for serious high school football, and already studs, not runts. The movie's saving grace was the high schooler who adopted Kayla as friends. Good, middle-of-the-road, typical high schoolers. If the casting had moved more to the center and realistically portrayed the main character with characters with people who looked the roles, it would have come across much better. Her dad was awkward to the extreme, yet not a geek, so why did they cast him to be so lame? No reason, just overt cringeworthy for no reason. And I am willing to bet that JD probably bullied the shit out of kids when he was in middle school, because I personally find Elsie Fisher to have been an incredibly relatable casting decision for this. I am sorry that not every high school and middle schooler who gets cast in a movie is going to be played by an actual 20-something-year-old who is totally ripped and shit. I think this is one of the worst takes on a film that I've ever seen. I am personally incredibly offended by it, mostly because of how accurately I feel like this movie does depict what an 8th grade experience is like for most people. Maybe not to a T in terms of the plot, but like in terms of how not kind puberty was to the majority of us. I think that's also just like a really mean thing to say about an actor or actress who does actually quite accurately depict an average 8th grade girl. This is really shitty, and it's not kind. And I think this is either just coming from someone who is just incredibly insecure about their own 8th grade experience, or just wants to live in a world where everything is like nice and cookie cutter in our films, and doesn't actually want films that accurately portray what real life is like. And that makes me sad. So, wow. The next A24 movie I love that someone gave a negative review to is Ex Machina, and Nikki Bowen, I guess, gave it a 1 out of 5, and she said Alex Garland's futuristic vision is no less ominous for its relatively low-key approach, but disappointingly falls back on genre cliche and tired depiction of gender relations. Those are interesting takes to me. I don't understand the genre cliche. So, like, yes, an ultimate thread of the plot of this film is the dangers of AI and how it could potentially like take over the whole human race one day, and that does appear in multiple films. However, the way that Ex Machina tells that story and gets us to that point is vastly different than any other film has ever done it. In fact, we don't even actually get to the point to where the AI does potentially take over the entirety of the human race. We just get the build up to that, and ultimately what is a much more personal story. And as far as it being a tired depiction of gender relations, I'm really curious as to exactly what she means by that. I can only assume that she is referring to like Oscar Isaac's character's like fairly misogynistic ways with his like female robots that he has created, or maybe like the Domhnall Gleeson and Eva relationship, in that she is ultimately like pandering and manipulating, like playing the puppy in a cage act to get him to fall in love for her, and him naturally trying to be some sort of knight in shining armor for her. I'm not going to say that those aren't you know, gender relations that aren't portrayed in multiple films. But I don't think that's a tired depiction, because there are people who act that way in real life all the time, on all ends of that spectrum. Misogynists 100% still exist. Boys with like white knight mentalities still very much so exist, and girls who use their feminine charms to manipulate others also still very much so exist. So I don't think those are tired depictions. I think those are very realistic depictions used in a incredibly well-made film that is kind of thrilling from start to end. So whatever. Next up, we have Lady Bird and Cole. Sorry, I just saw like one word already. Cole Smithy gave it a C+ on his scale, and he said Lady Bird is a Karen, a racist, homophobic, dishonest, and disloyal character that Hollywood and the media profited from while attempting to silence me. And to that I have to say, this guy did not watch this fucking movie. Like, there's no way that he actually watched this movie at all. I don't understand. Okay, so yes, Lady Bird is dishonest at times and disloyal to her friend at times because she is a teenager, and teenagers do that sometimes. Racist and homophobic, do not understand that at all, because I think she has a right to be a little upset with Lucas Hedges' character, because he very much so acted interested in her, and yes, she found out that ultimately he was in fact gay and using their relationship to try to avoid or you know, whatever. He's a teenager in a town and in a family where that would not be accepted, and so yeah, that was dishonest of him to do that. He's also just a scared kid, and ultimately I don't recall any remotely homophobic remarks made towards that character in this film at all. I don't get that, and I definitely have no idea where the racist is coming from. So I think that Cole Smithy is an attention desperate bitch, and he should probably actually watch this movie again. And I also highly doubt, sir, that you are even remotely important enough to Hollywood and the media to specifically attempt to silence you, of all people. Much like they will never care enough about me to attempt to silence me. And finally, we have Uncut Gems. And Haley O gave it a 1.5 out of 5 stars. And this one is long, but it says, Uncut Gems is not as interesting or exciting or meaningful or simply as good as the critics seem to suggest. I am truly disappointed in the critics' reviews of this movie, because they have all implied that this would be a good movie. It is not a good movie. Some background. I don't know who we are big fans of Adam Sandler's dramatic movies, even more so than his funny ones. We love art films, edgy films, nuance films, story-driven films, plot-driven films, action films, etc. This film had great potential from the script to the characters, but to the big idea, to the settings, etc. It really should have worked well, yet it did not. Why? It started strong and interesting. It attempted to connect some important dots in the storyline, narrative, and character arcs. Ultimately, the film has a decent beginning, but a torturously long middle, with lots of yelling, whining, screeching, and other obnoxious mannerisms that are not decent substitutes for an authentic storytelling or acting, and a very good ending. But did the beginning and the end justify the overly long, painful, screechy middle section? No. Adam Sandler can be absolutely brilliant. When he performs serious characters that have quirky parts, there is no doubt that he was perfect for this role, and the role should have highlighted all of his acting skills. The story idea was perfect for him, but the movie as a vehicle was just bleh and icky in the middle sections. I really wanted to like this film, but even the soundtrack was grating. I can understand scoring the film so that an audience is uncomfortable, because it is a great technique to elicit a negative emotional response, but this film fell way short and fell short of what it could have delivered. And wow, that is a lot of words to give something a 1.5 out of 2 stars when you spent most of your review praising it for its beginning and end and other things. I don't really understand personally the the assessment of the middle section being nothing but obnoxious mannerisms and yelling and whining and screeching. I feel like even though I don't personally think that this movie is as great as a lot of people have said it is, I still very much so enjoyed it. And everything that I remember about the middle part still drove the plot, moved things forward, built the character. And this is easily probably Adam Sandler's best performance of his career, in my opinion. So I don't really understand a lot of this much at all. And I also don't particularly like that you started off your review by just complaining about what other critics said about the film, because now it's just making it sound like you're letting other people influence your personal thoughts, which you don't need to do that. Just tell me what you think. That's all I care. I just want to know what you think. And I mean that. And you can tell me in the comments section below. And then scroll back up, hit the like button, share the video, and subscribe.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.